Hi everyone. Spoilers for the Jinteki side of Honor and Profit just got released, and boy, am I stoked. There are some really awesome cards in the deck, not the deck, that have been spoiled, and I can't wait to get my hands on them, but it'll be a few months until then. So for now, all I can do is to speculate on how good these cards are. Today I'll be looking at the three spoiled identity cards on the Jinteki side, namely Harmony Medtech, Tenen Institute, and Nisei Division. Firstly, I'd like to say that I'm very thankful that the designers did a fairly decent job of making each individual identity stand out, not just among themselves, but also with the two existing identities. It could have been the case that an identity that does net damage, that attempts to flatline the runner, is printed out, and that would compete with personal evolution, which wouldn't be very nice for increasing diversity. Like, if you take a look at the three existing Wayland identities, even though they shine at different parts of the game, for example, Grindel is extremely powerful right off the bat, they are all three at the end of the day still based on money. All three abilities give free money, free credits in one way or another. So I feel that Wayland diversity is very limited as of now. Whereas for the Jinteki card identities that we see, they are all quite diverse and offer a different niche, which is what I love to see. So I think that's the most important thing for identity design, and I'm glad that they did it pretty well for Jinteki. So let's get into the identities themselves. Let's start with Harmony Medtech. It was spoiled the earliest, having I guess at least a month ago or so, and a lot of people have commented on it, and I do share the sentiment that it is a very strong identity. In fact, I think it's the best out of the pack of three over here. Jinteki as a faction is really shaping up to be a very early game based faction. Most of their eyes are early game eyes that threaten to deal a lot of damage or cause a lot of work compression for the corp if the runner cannot break the subroutines, but fall late game because of their low strength and rendered useless by a single mimic. So having an identity that complements this by leveraging on by threatening Jinteki's early game advantage is very, very good, and here we have it. One fewer agenda point means that now Jinteki is pretty dangerous, especially with the newly spoiled 5-3 agenda, Future Perfect. Now that Jinteki is an in-faction 5-3, it becomes very threatening to know that Jinteki can win by scoring just 2 agendas, theoretically. And just like The World Is Yours from NBN, it's a 40-12, meaning that your deck will be smaller and more consistent. You are able to pull out those important cards with more frequency, which is very important for fast advanced decks. The problem with Jinteki is that unlike NBN, they don't really have many good 3-2s, 3-2 agendas. Yes, NBN has Project View and Astro Script, which are awesome. On the Jinteki side, you have Brain Trust, which is a blank 3-2 essentially. And there's a new 3-2 coming out on the horizon. However, as you can see, it's a unique agenda, like Director Haas's pet project. So you will only have so many 3-2s in the deck. 3-2s are very important because they make your deck very compact. You think about it, having 3 project views and 3 astro scripts, that's 12 agenda points settled. You only need to fit in 6 more agenda points in your The World Is Yours deck. Same thing with Jinteki, but you can only do so with 3 Brain Trusts and 1 of this new agenda. So your deck won't be as compact as that of The World Is Yours deck. But still, it's a very formidable agenda, having this ability, only requiring 6 agenda points to win. So that's for Harmony Medtech. Moving on to Tenen Institute. When your turn begins, you may place one advancement token on the card if the runner did not make a successful run during his or her last turn. Sounds familiar? It should. This is actually a spin-off of Replicating Perfection. If the runner does not run, they will be forbidden. Something bad will happen. For Replicating Perfection, you cannot access remotes, which usually means that the corp gets to get a lot of assets off or score agendas. As for Tenen Institute, if you don't run, what does the corp do? The corp gets a free advancement. And read, this free advancement is literally free. The corp does not have to pay the credit for advancing. So essentially, it's like giving the corp 2 clicks, assuming you value credits at 1 credit per click. 1 free credit and using that credit to advance. That's 2 clicks if the runner does nothing. So yeah, my issue with it is that it's very similar to Replicating Perfection in that it punishes passive runners. Yeah, I would like to have seen a greater diversification, but with this identity, at least it opens up the space for one thing, and that is to advance cards that normally cannot be advanced. The obvious synergy here is with Wayland Ice, as some members of the forum have pointed out. Some Wayland Ice cannot be advanced while unrest. This allows you to bypass that restriction. And of course, you can use it to play mind games by advancing cards that normally can't be advanced, such as snares. Yeah. But other than that, I think it feels very gimmicky as a whole. It is not that easy to get off because most runners do want to run, and especially after seeing your identity, they definitely will attempt to run every single turn. Of course, they need to make a successful run, unlike Replicating Perfection, and this often means impaling yourself on the likes of newer katanas, surugis, and some of the very painful ice that have been spoiled along in this newly released spoiler. So yes, while there is some synergy that I can see, for the most part it just feels very gimmicky, unfortunately. Too gimmicky for my taste. Now moving along to the last one, Nisei Division. Whenever you and the runner reveal secretly spent credits, gain 1 credit. Well, HB Engineering the Future gains money for installing a card every turn. Wayland Building a Better World gains money for playing every transaction. And now we have the money version of Jinteki. Every time a Psi ability fires, you get 1 credit. Well, I like the fact that now Jinteki has a money identity. I suppose they needed one, considering that Jinteki has been the poorest corp for quite some time. Unfortunately, I feel that they could have done a better job with the identity that ties in with the Psi abilities. You see, even though this encourages the corp to include more Psi cards in the deck, it unfortunately doesn't really change the Psi game. It still feels like a luck-based game that has very swingy effects on the game. You know, most people compare it to being a coin flip, or yes, having a 66% chance of the Psi abilities firing off. I feel that they could have done something to this identity to make Psi abilities, to radically change Psi abilities and make it much more strategic and fun. I would have loved the division, the identity card to read as such. Whenever a Psi ability fires, the corp may choose to spend 4 credits as one of the options. That would really change the game. This means that the corp can, for a hefty premium, ensure that the Psi ability always fires off, which would increase synergy with Psi cards. I think that would make for a much better identity, and will also change because it changes the way the corp can react, it will also change the way the runner reacts. Now the runner has a thing. There is a possibility that the corp can just push through with the Sai ability no matter how much I spend. Maybe I should just spend 0. You know? So I think the mind game aspect of Sai, which I believe was the whole reason why Sai abilities were created, would be enhanced with such an identity. Unfortunately, FFG decided not to go down that route. Instead, they chose to turn Sai abilities into a money-making machine with Nisei Division. And I guess that's fine too, because you can play now, especially with Sai eyes, such as Snowflake and Bullfrog. Now they essentially are revenue generating sources. Now, Snowflake costs 1 to rest, but you get the 1 credit back because the first time the runner encounters it, the subroutine will probably fire off. So, yes. And the runner will no longer run through Sai eyes even though they have no breakers to break the subroutines, because they know that if they do so, they are essentially giving the corp a free pop-up windows worth of 1 credit. So, yes, Nisei Division in its current iteration does change up the dynamic of Sai cards as a whole. However, I feel that it could have been much better done with a way for the corp to ensure that the Sai abilities fire off. That would make for much more interesting gameplay, in my opinion. So that's it. These are the new identities that will come out with Honor and Profit. Once again, I'm very happy that, even though I'm not a very big fan of any of these identities, to be honest, at least they show a good attempt by the game designers to diversify Jinteki, as opposed to being a straight up net damage faction that only cares about flatlining the runner. I think, yes, that they have done a pretty decent job in giving Jinteki players options depending on what the kind of deck they want to build. So that's all I have. Thank you for tuning in, and leave some comments on what you think about these new identities. That's all for me. See you.